Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Tuesday, November the 19th, 2024. Julie just posted this. She is watching on Facebook and tells us, heads up, there's a scheduled test of the Alert Ready system tomorrow. Is this in Alberta? Julie, where are you watching from, please? Central Time. So is that a Manitoba, Saskatchewan thing? Where is that going to be? It's supposed to be tomorrow, 1:55. A test alert will be sent out to most smartphones, TV, and radio stations across the province at that time. Important. The usual emergency alert tone will accompany the test alert. If you don't want to be disrupted, be sure to turn off your phone by 1:55. I think these alerts get through that, even though the phone is turned off somehow, some way. Ew. Keep in mind, the tone may sound once your phone is turned back on. Our system is operated independently. All right. Well, thank you for that, Julie. If anybody else sees that, I have yet to receive that message on my phone, although I did get an advertisement for something I was thinking about the other day. And I'm not kidding when I say I was thinking about something. And then this ad popped up on my phone for that very thing about 2 minutes later. Now, that could be a coincidence. But I don't know what the hell's going on anymore. Are they tapped into our brains now? I mean, I didn't take the so I don't see how they could be tapped into but maybe there's some other way. Maybe we've been exposed somehow, some way. Maybe it was that shedding that could have been going on that they said wasn't. Does it really matter? Now, before we begin the show tonight, I want you guys to make absolutely sure that there are no children watching. And I don't usually do this. You know that. But tonight, we're going to be talking about some pretty heavy stuff. And I mean really heavy. What is going on in the world right now is not for the ears of a child. Children should be playing and having fun and discovering wonders they've never seen before. And they should not be exposed to this kind of stuff. So I want you to take a moment and take any child, any kid, grandchild, your kid, whatever, away from this show right now. I thank you in advance for doing that because, like I said, okay, Glow is watching tonight. Lolita is watching in Winnipeg. Hello, Pat. Headline in Epic today. Biden pledges $4 billion to World Bank Fund for poorest countries. Well, of course, they're trying equity. That's the thing now, right? All countries will be equal. So if you were a rich country, you're not going to be anymore. And if you were a poor country, you might be elevated in your living standards a little bit, but that's their plan. That's the globalist plan. But I don't think that's going to happen. But something else might be going on right now. I don't know. Rhonda's watching in Labrador City. Hello, Rhonda. Linda watching in Waterloo, Ontario. Hello, Barbara in Georgetown, Ontario. Regine is watching in Langley. Debbie is watching in Oak Bank. All right, whatever platform you guys are watching on tonight, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or whether it's Twitch or X or Rumble or Telegram or shadowdavis.com. Now, you can't do this on the website. And by the way, for you guys, you all access members, at shadowdavis.com, I have set up a new page for you. It's called News and Human Interest. I'll be posting pretty much every single story that I run, all the videos, the long versions of all the videos that I run on the show starting yesterday and then moving right through. So you guys have got a new way to spend your time with shadowdavis.com. If you're watching on one of the social media platforms, I'm asking you right now to like and share, get this out to as many people as you possibly can. Last night's show with Jason Christoff, which, by the way, was an interview we recorded about 3 weeks ago. We had the whole thing on the website and finally played the whole thing last night. We did play you some excerpts of it a couple of weeks ago. There were some shorts on Facebook and YouTube that you may have seen. The whole 100-minute interview ran last night, and it was seen 35,000 times across the platform. So you guys must really like Jason Christoff. He is a good guy, and he knows his stuff. So I want to thank him again for coming on. Thursday night on the show, it is the one, the only Randy Hillier. And we're going to be talking about how his charges just miraculously, all 5 of them were miraculously dropped last week, convoy-related charges. And his theory on 15-minute cities, and he did a great video about chicken coops and 15-minute cities, which I've posted on my Facebook page. If you haven't seen it yet, please go and watch it. Randy Hillier joins. We had a great conversation on the phone yesterday. He's a great guy, and I'm looking forward to having him on Thursday night right here on Shadow at Night Live, which is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com. Silver Biotics Facial Serum. Why Silver Biotics? Well, it contains silver salt, the power of silver salt technology, hyaluronic acid, and organic vegetable glycerine. For best results, use it twice a day. Morning and night, contains natural ingredients, leaves your face feeling smoother and more resilient, helps to protect your face and give you a radiant, youthful glow, naturally promotes healing with silver salt to even your skin tone, and it may reduce blemishes. Also absorbs fast with a lightweight texture for deep hydration to your face, helps to bring back firmness and elasticity to your face, visibly reduces the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles on your face. This is Silver Biotics Facial Serum, one of the great products available right now at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Remember, when you support CanadaNanoSilver.com, you are supporting a Canadian company, a freedom-based Canadian company, and you are supporting the Shadow at Night live stream. For retail locations near you, just hit the retail locations tab on the website. And if you'd like to become a retailer of these awesome products, get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.com. All right, have you removed any children from... Okay, so the reason I asked you guys to do that is simple. I have never in my lifetime, and I'm going to be 60 years old next month, never, ever come close to a World War III scenario. We've had the Cold War. The Cold War lasted through the 70s and the 80s, the 60s after the Cuban Missile Crisis. But then Glasnost came and the wall came down and things were rosy for a very long time. And you know, there were skirmishes, there were wars going on around the world, but it didn't really affect us too much. We didn't think about it too much, right? It wasn't a world war situation. Now, because of Western involvement in a war we have no business in. I mean, think about Ukraine for a second. When you think about those politicians who talk about, we will support Ukraine until the very end, you have to wonder why they say those things. They're not a member of NATO. We may have trade agreements with them, but we've also got trade agreements with the Russians. Why are we so head up about supporting Ukraine? Now, there's many theories about that. Biolabs, money laundering, all of that stuff, and nothing has really been proven yet. Nobody has got any documents to back any of that up. But now, 2 days ago, Joe Biden gave Zelensky permission to use U.S. long-range missiles on Russia. And they did that today. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen right now. This is alarming because Putin has changed his nuclear regimen now. And we're going to get to that. This is from Newsweek. Russian officials mull evacuating families as Biden okays long-range strikes. This is U.S. Secretary of State Tony Blinken.
Everyone is focused on making sure that Ukraine has what it needs to continue to deal with the ongoing Russian aggression and to put itself in the strongest possible position this year and into next year, making sure that the money, the munitions, the mobilized forces are there to deal with the aggression and to put Ukraine in a position of strength. And I heard around the NATO table, again, a determined commitment for the countries, the alliance, to continue and indeed strengthen its support for Ukraine.
Okay. This is from Al Jazeera. I know, you might be rolling your eyes just like me, but I just did not want to use any North American news source here, even though we know Al Jazeera has also been compromised, but not to the degree that North American news sources have been. So this story goes, Russia warns Ukraine's ATACMS attack marks new phase of war. And the warning comes as President Vladimir Putin lowers the threshold for Russia using its nuclear arsenal in a move decried as irresponsible by the West. So the West, Joe Biden, gives Zelensky permission to use U.S. long-range missiles into Russia. Putin says, wait a minute, hold on just a second. You can't do that. We're going to lower our nuclear threshold. That's irresponsible. Obviously, we know who the aggressor is here. And once again, the West, United States, UK, Western Europe, Canada, we have no business over there. We have no business supplying arms to Ukraine. We have nothing to do with that conflict, which, by the way, is about a region of the the Ukraine, which is called the Donbass, which 90% of the people who live there claim is part of Russia anyway. They identify as Russian, even though that part of the country is Ukrainian. And that has been fought over for the last 700-800 years, if you know the history of it. Even if you read a cursory paragraph about it, that's what it's all about. And Vladimir Putin, I'm not sure if you saw the interview he did with Tucker Carlson a few months back, but that's what he was talking about. The entire first half of that interview, he said, this is a very old matter between Russians and Ukrainians. This has nothing to do with the West. But for some reason. So Russia has said that Ukraine's use of long-range ATACMS missiles against its territory marked a new phase of the Western war against Moscow, and has said it will react accordingly. Ukraine used the U.S.-made missiles to target a military facility in Russia's Bryansk border region overnight, Moscow said today, just days after Washington gave the green light for Kyiv to use the long-range weapons against Russian targets. The reported use of the Army tactical missile system known as ATACMS came as Russian President Vladimir Putin formally lowered the threshold for using nuclear weapons, opening the door to a potential nuclear response by Moscow, to even a conventional attack by any nation supported by a nuclear power. Now, I don't know about you, I'm concerned greatly about this. And there's a number of reasons that I'm concerned about it. Many people say to me, Shadow, they're all actors. They're just actors. They're acting. This is not a real circumstance. This has all been drawn up. And it's been drawn up to make one man become a worldwide hero. Now, who's the one who's been calling for peace? It's been Donald Trump. Peace. We're going to stop the conflict. We're going to stop the conflict. We're going to stop the conflict. And then you go ahead and you read Revelations in the Bible. And what does it say? According to Paul, and again, I'm not saying this is the case. I'm not saying this is the case. I mean, some of you might be going, oh, come on. According to Paul, who wrote Revelations, at least 90% of it, the Antichrist will go to all lengths to exceedingly exalt himself in the eyes of the world. Could it be that after all of the abuse and all of the name calling and I'm not talking about Trump calling people names. I'm calling about everybody else. They're talking about everybody else calling him names. Media and all the crap and the shooting and so in that way they would both sides be in on it. Now, again, I'm not saying that's the case. What I am saying is that it's something that just came into my brain in the last couple of days. So let's continue on with this story here. Russia's Ministry of Defense said Ukraine had struck Russia's Bryansk region with 6 missiles and that air defense systems intercepted 5 and damaged 1. This is, of course, a signal that they want to escalate. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, speaking at a group of 20 news conference in Brazil, said of the attack, "We will be taking this as a qualitatively new phase of the Western war against Russia, and we will react accordingly," he added, accusing Washington of helping Kyiv operate the missiles. All right, so let's go around the horn here and hear what world leaders had to say, starting with Ursula von der Leyen, who's the president of the European Union.
1,000 days ago, Russia tried to wipe Ukraine off the map. And for 1,000 days, Russia has failed because of Ukraine's resistance and the sacrifice of your heroes. Today is a day of mourning, but also a day of promise. We promise to keep standing by your side for as long as it takes. You can rest assured that European and Western support will continue to flow. The winter ahead may be scary, but it is in stormy days that true friends show up. And Europe is your true friend. Your freedom is our freedom, and our union is your home. Long live Europe and Slava Ukraini.
I'm not understanding this dedication that the West has towards fighting this war on Ukraine's behalf. The only thing I've heard about it is Putin's a madman and wants to take over all of Europe, and that came out of the mouth of Joe Biden. And I've seen no indication of that at all. What other reason is there? Again, biolabs. They don't want people to discover what's going on in the biolabs in Ukraine. Money laundering. Could it be something as simple as that? Here's UK. Oh, by the way, this guy's going to pop up again later on in the show. But for now, here's UK Prime Minister, the Marxist Keir Starmer.
Game changer.
Well, I'm not going to comment.
It's been confirmed. It's been confirmed by Russia that they have landed in their territory.
Beth, you will understand. I'm not going to comment on operational
In
details.
principle, are the missiles a game changer? In principle.
The reason that I'm not going to comment is, I think, well understood, which is Putin is the winner if we do so, and it will undermine Ukraine, and I'm not prepared to do
Just
that.
Just quickly, Russia's also threatened nuclear escalation. Are you comfortable with that when people at home are watching this, worrying that you could put us at risk?
Well, it's very important. It's very important that we're steadfast in our support for Ukraine. Russia is the aggressor,
Even
and
if
Russia,
it unleashes nuclear war.
Russia has to be the one that makes the move to stop this war. It's within their gift, but we must support Ukraine. It's impacting not just Ukraine; it's impacting the rest of the world, including the UK.
Is your message to viewers back home that there will not be a nuclear war, because that is what Russia is threatening?
If you guys didn't get involved in this war, it wouldn't be impacting you. It wouldn't be impacting us. But you did. Here's the Canadian Minister of Emergency Preparedness, Bill Blair.
Your thoughts on the United States' opinion to give missiles and allow them to strike in Russia?
Well, I'm sure you recall, back in October, our Prime Minister articulated Canada's position very clearly that we strongly supported President Zelensky's request for permission from the Americans, the French, and the Brits with respect to the use of long-range fires that were being provided to them. And Canada has taken a position in support of Ukraine's request, and also we place no geographic restrictions on the use of any of the armaments or munitions that Canada provides to Ukraine.
Do you fear that it could escalate things, which like retaliation from Russia?
We believe that in supporting Ukraine's effort to defend themselves against the illegal invasion of Russia against their sovereign country is important, and that everything we are able to do to help Ukraine defend itself from that illegal invasion will bring us closer to peace.
And are you doing anything to prevent that Trump actually walk back this decision in 2 months?
And again, I'm quite prepared to say is that Canada supports the permission that the United States has granted to Ukraine for the use of those long-range hires. And I think future discussion on the course of that conflict will take place. But right now, as of today, I think that the decision that the United States has made in order to support Ukraine to defend itself against that attack, particularly their ability to target missile launch sites, airfields, and other military installations, is important to enable them to defend themselves.
All right, Bill. That's enough. Here's Justin Trudeau. Oh, and by the way, for you All Access members, you've got a choice as to what you get to see tonight. You can choose to watch a video that I found yesterday regarding Justin Trudeau on the DIddy tapes. Or was John Lennon assassinated by a guy under the control of MK Ultra? That's going to be your choice, and we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, here's the moron.
Joe Biden, did he share or explain his decision to approve Ukraine's use of American missiles to strike targets in Russia? And do you agree with that decision?
I have for months now talked about how important it is to degrade the capacity of the Russian military to strike into Ukraine with impunity, because Ukraine hasn't been able to strike on factories and military production sites in Russia. We have called for that for a while, so I think it's a good thing that the United States has done that and other partners are doing that. I had an excellent conversation with President Biden. He is a friend and an ally. We talked about a lot of different things, and we're going to continue to make sure we're working together in the coming months.
Okay, thank you for that, Justy. By the way, is he on the DIddy tapes? What do you think? I haven't seen the DIddy tapes. I would, if I'm a betting man, I'd say, oh yeah, absolutely. But we'll deal with that on the extension after 9 o'clock Central on shadowdavis.com. You know, there's not many ways we can go online and look at military strengths of different countries, except for one or two sites. And this is my go-to for this kind of thing. It's called globalfirepower.com. And they give us a comparison of Ukraine and Russia military strengths this year. Side-by-side comparison showcasing the relative conventional fighting strengths of Ukraine and Russia for 2024. So out of 145 countries who made the list, Russia's number 2 and Ukraine's number 18. And I think that's being generous. Talking about manpower, Russia's got the advantage. Air power, Russia's got the advantage. Land, naval, Russia. Natural resources, Russia. Financials, Russia. Logistics, Russia. Geography, somehow Ukraine. I guess maybe that's because of their access to water. Russia's got that too, though. Let's see here. Just all of this is so heavily. Plus, I mean, let's not forget, Russia is, after all, a nuclear power. I mean, they've got nukes. Here's General Michael Flynn.
Outcome or the consequence, you know, especially with what Putin said recently in his statement. Everybody needs to go and listen to what he basically said. He said that there will be an action, there will be a consequence to this very provocative step that the West is taking, because Putin recognized immediately that Ukraine can't handle these. This is not a system in their inventory, nor is it a capability that they have. They have to use other means, meaning they have to use other countries to leverage the way that this weapon system can be used. So there is going to be a consequence. I don't know what that consequence is. It would be speculation, but I will tell you that this almost feels like the West, and principally the United States of America, is taking NATO into a place where we don't have any business being. And instead of fighting for peace, as President Trump has continued to say, what is happening is these people are taking us to war. Trump is going to have to get on the phone with world leaders now and start, and he's probably going to have to put himself into the presidency, into the president mode, even though there's, like we always say, there's only one president at a time. But Trump needs to say, we need to have cool heads prevail here. We cannot have these provocative measures taken. And I wrote about this in the paper as well, that this is what happened to me in 2016 in my very famous phone call with the Russian ambassador, Ambassador Kislyak, the Russian ambassador to Russia. And I had the phone call with him, and I said, and I verbally, I mean, almost specifically said, we got to let cool heads prevail here. Let the Trump administration come into office, and we'll have a different conversation, because we view things completely differently than the Obama administration. And you saw what happened to me. I mean, they lied through their teeth about that. Well, the same thing is going to start to happen in here, but we have to have conversations where sane leaders with good common sense, who do not want to take us into World War III, prevail. If we don't have that, we are going to have a very difficult couple of months here.
All right, so Joe Biden gives the go-ahead to Ukraine. Go ahead, use our largest missile. Maybe they misunderstood him because he mumbled it so badly. Go ahead and do the thing with the thing, I don't know. But any world leader with a brain out there, and I'm not saying there's many of them, knows that Joe Biden is a lame duck president. And really, anything he says at this stage of the game doesn't matter long term, because they know that Trump is taking office in the next 2 months. So what is this now? Is this a globalist desperation move to wipe out the planet? Are they that desperate and dedicated to making sure that Trump does not get to be the president again? Now, I've heard rumors of some move to impeach Biden for doing this down in the United States. I'm not sure if that's happening. I don't know. But they say that this would be an act of treason, what Biden did, given the high sign to Zelensky for him to use the missiles. Glenn Beck, I consider him to be the godfather of independent journalists. He started The Blaze back in 2011, 2012 after a very long run on cable news, and I have a great deal of respect for him. Here's what Glenn Beck says.
Well, last night, after, a day ago, 2 days ago, we finally heard that the president had given Ukraine the go-ahead to use these U.S. long-range missiles at Russia. Ukrainian troops launched an attack against a Russian border region with 6 U.S. long-range missiles. This comes after, again, Putin approved the updated doctrine lowering the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons. How many times has this guy given us a red line and said, don't cross this or it will be World War III? And we've crossed it every single time. For a man who's backed in the corner, a man who is a bloodthirsty killer, you don't keep backing him into a corner. Or what happens? Eventually, he says, I'll have absolutely no credibility, and his people who have just been bombed with U.S. missiles, which he just said 2 days ago will be an act of war, has got to say, you know what? The worst thing I can do is not act, because I'll lose all credibility in my own country and throughout the rest of the world. We have entered a moment of madness.
So Glenn is saying this is a matter of ego now. For those of us who sit back and say that would be foolish, you're not going to destroy the world for your ego, are you? Have you ever met a politician, even a low-level one? You know, they have this veneer of authority that surrounds them, right? And for whatever reason, we give them the benefit of the doubt that they know what they're doing, that they're normal people in a very difficult spot. And for some of them, yeah, sure, that's true. But in order to get to the highest levels of power on this planet, you have to be as bloodthirsty and as egomaniacal as anybody else ever could be on this planet. Does that mean that somebody like that is trustworthy? I would say no. Am I suggesting that these guys would blow up the world for their precious egos? No. But anything is possible. That's why I'm concerned about this. What else have you got, Glenn?
What Joe Biden did is impeachable. Who launches 62 days before you're out of the office? Who starts World War III? By the way, there's a couple of other things you should know. This isn't the only thing going on. There's been a couple of other things. First of all, they cut some telecommunication cables. Who? We don't know, but we suspect the Chinese. The Chinese ship Yi Pang is the main suspect in an investigation now on who cut 2 undersea telecom cables between Finland and Germany. Why would you cut cables between Finland and Germany? Well, if you're going to restore the Soviet Empire, Finland was part of that Soviet Empire. They've been the ones saying, please stop all this madness. That was cut. Oh, also the telecommunications lines between Sweden and Lithuania. Sweden was an allied. Lithuania was an Axis. Lithuania was under Soviet rule as well. The ship sailed right over the cables when they were cut 8 a.m. on Sunday and 2 a.m. on Monday. Gang, things could be different by lunchtime. Pray for your country. Pray that Vladimir Putin does not strike a NATO country, even with a conventional bomb. Pray that this madman will listen to Donald Trump and realize this is over in 62 days. But then again, the guy wants to collapse the United States of America. As I told you, if Trump wins, one of the things I'm very worried about is terrorism and war.
Okay, I disagree with Glenn there. I don't think that Vladimir Putin is a madman. I just don't. If he were, this would have happened years ago. He's been in power there for 20 years or more. Why on earth would he suddenly go, I'm going to bomb you? Like, what good would that do him? I want to restore the Soviet Union. Is that what Beck thinks? He mentioned it. He wants to restore the USSR. He wants to take over all those Eastern European countries again. I don't know. Have you seen signs of that? All I've ever seen is just give us back this little piece of Ukraine here that's Russian anyway. And we're good. I mean, Russia's economy is moving along quite nicely right now. Their quality of life seems to be going up and up and up. The people there seem to be happy. Crime is relatively low. There's no gender issues over there. There's no race issues over there. People actually have mentioned to me, and I've mentioned this on the show here, when Chris Sky was on a few months ago, remember? You know, when people talk about wanting to get out of Canada because of all the chaos that's going on here and the ruin that Justin Trudeau has brought to this country, people talk about going to Mexico or someplace in Central or South America. And Chris brought up Russia. And I went, you know, more and more people, I've been hearing more and more people say Russia. I don't think that Putin's a madman. I just don't think that. I think the guys over here are madmen. Many of them, not all. But this is crazy what's going on right now. We've never been this close. How much money do you think the carbon tax bureaucracy is costing Canadians? Because remember when Trudeau came in, promised the carbon tax, he had to create a whole new bureaucracy to administer this carbon tax because You know, he had to have a department of people to be able to return all that money to us after we paid it. You're getting more money than you pay. Well, then what's the point of it? It's like, it doesn't make any sense. How much do you guys think taxpayers face for the carbon tax bureaucracy? How much money? What do you think it is? Write it down in the comments. I'll wait. $400 million, Claude says. Claude watching on X. Hello. No, it's higher than that. Let's play the high-low game here. Don't forget to like and share, you guys. Like and share whatever platform you're watching on. And don't forget, Randy Hillier, the one and only, is on the show on Thursday night, 8 o'clock. Nobody else wants to guess? All right, that's fine. $800 million. It's not billions and billions, but it's damn close to $1 billion. From Rebel, Canadian taxpayers footing a hefty bill for the federal carbon tax and rebate system with administration costs totaling $283 million since its inception in 2019, according to government records unearthed by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Investigative journalist Ryan Thorpe. By 2030, these costs are projected to soar to $796 million, raising questions about the program's cost effectiveness and impact on taxpayers. Now, what's more important for Justin Trudeau? Is it affordability or is it fighting climate change? Here's your answer.
Really easy when you're in a short-term survive. I got to be able to pay the rent this month. I got to be able to buy groceries for my kids, to say, okay, let's put climate change as a slightly lower priority. And that's something that's instinctive. When the storm comes, you want to hunker down and just sort of huddle up and wait for it to blow over. We can't do that around climate change. And unfortunately, we have an awful lot of political amplification of the kind of narrative that is directly opposed to that.
Never mind your family. Who cares about your family? I don't care about you should not care about your family as much as you care about climate change. Because if there's no planet, there's no family anyway, right? You know, I always love hearing other countries' news people and their take on Justin Trudeau. And here's one from Sky News in Australia.
Years as Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau's approval rating has plummeted from the 63% way back in his heyday when he was first elected to just 23% in June of this year. It's continued to tumble. So with an election breathing down his neck coming up just next year, he's decided to back off on the record immigration his government has seen pour into Canada. Here he is saying, look, we could have acted faster, but I'm making a move now, so vote for me next year, people.
In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast, like baby boom fast. And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests. So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
So he's decided, better crack down on this because all the polls in Canada are showing for the first time in a quarter century, the vast majority of Canadians are saying we've had enough with these record levels of immigration. And this guy just wants to get re-elected.
In the last
Trudeau,
2 years, our population has grown.
No. Our population's grown like baby boom level. You did it. It's your fault, you clown. You, Justin, you are the one who did this. You're following that Century Initiative. You did it. And now you're trying to blame somebody else. Of course you are, because that is your MO.
Really fast, like baby boom fast. And increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests. So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
So he's decided, better crack down on this, because all the polls in Canada are showing for the first time in a quarter century, the vast majority of Canadians are saying we've had enough with these record levels of immigration. And this guy just wants to get re-elected. Here is the head of the opposition, which I certainly hope will be the PM next year, Pierre Poilievre. He's taking Trudeau to task, saying, mate, you're the cause of the problem. Stop blaming these third-party actors. It's just bad people exploiting the system. Listen to what Pierre has to say and ask yourself, doesn't this sound like he's describing our government, the Labor government, the Albanese government, to a T?
So let's not turn our gaze away from the source of the problem, which is Justin Trudeau.
By the way, you should know that I will give them credit for this one. I do believe that this entire interview that that we're watching a part of here did run on Global. So minor credit in that department.
Who increased our population growth by 300% in a matter of a couple of years. By his admission, this isn't me, allowed massive fraud in international students, temporary foreign workers, and the refugee system. By his own admission, the Liberal immigration policies have caused massive housing, job, and healthcare shortages. And now he's basically denouncing his entire immigration policy and expecting us to believe that he can fix the problems that he caused.
Wow, massive housing, job, and healthcare. Wow, it just reminded me so much of here back at home. But the amount of damage Pierre's going to be able to do at the polling booth next year on this issue, and we've seen this across the West. It was the case in the UK, but not so much. They just voted for change, and they're not going to get it anytime soon. It was certainly successful in the US. Trump used that as a battering ram, and rightly so. I think Pierre, this is going to be another bastion of his campaign against Trudeau, because it goes without saying, all the polls are already showing this is what the people want, and which Canadians are going to be dumb enough to believe that the guy who created the problem is going to be the guy to fix it.
Do you think we can put this down to the Trump effect a little bit?
Perhaps. I mean, Pierre has already been called very much a Trumpian figure. Yes. He's very famous for chewing on apples by talking to reporters, questioning them on their questions, getting them to.
All right. I like to hear foreign news people talk about the Canadian situation. They get it right, kind of, mostly, but there's still a few things that they're not quite sure on, and I think that's probably just bleed from their own system into their perception of what ours is like. And who knows, there may be, Northern Perspective has been doing a great job following the possibility of an election soon coming in Canada. They're saying that Jagmeet Singh has painted himself into a corner with all this support for the unions and all the striking. By the way, there's a postal strike, in case you haven't noticed. Yeah, it's been for the past couple days now. And Jagmeet Singh, if the government tries to stick their nose in and force back to work legislation, I don't care what happens, I'll vote non-confidence, and then he never does, right? In this case, maybe he has to if he wants to maintain any credibility. But also remember, his 6th anniversary as an MP is in January. And once he passes the 6th anniversary, he gets his pension. So I predict we are going to have an election in Canada. It's not going to be before the end of the year. It's already November 19th, November 20th. It's not happening. They'd have to campaign through Christmas. It's not happening. But I believe in February or March, yes, there will be an election. Now, in case you guys have not been following the scandal of the two Randys, and again, Northern Exposure Perspective, does a great job of coloring that one in for you. Here's a 90-second video that Poilievre put up on YouTube today.
First denied
that he and his company were profiting off government business, and then text messages showed the contrary.
By the way, I think I'm developing a crush on Michelle Ferrari. I don't know why I felt compelled to say that to you, but oof.
They referred to a Randy. Well, he claimed that it was another Randy. We now know there is no other Randy. We know he falsely claimed he was Indigenous in order so that his company could steal resources that were meant for real Indigenous people. And now his company address matches the address of a place that was the location of 2 cocaine busts. Any one of these things would be a resigning offense. Why won't he resign now?
Know the person referred to in today's article. I've never met that person. I've had no dealings with her whatsoever. Those are the facts.
Apparently, the person he doesn't know is himself. He says that he's not the Randy in the text messages, but his own business associates say there is no other Randy. He says that he said that he was Indigenous in order that he could get grants and contracts that were meant just for Indigenous people. Now he admits he's not Indigenous at all. And now, while his company has the same address as a place that has 2 cocaine busts, he says he doesn't know the person involved in that address either. Does this minister even know who he is?
Okay. And there's still another scandal. I mean, they haven't even really got to that scandal in the House of Commons or in committee yet. They have, but they haven't, because there's another one that's right now kind of taking up all their time. And that is the scandal of the $400 million green slush fund. So the RCMP is doing an investigation based upon records provided to them by the government. But the problem is that those documents were all heavily redacted. So the RCMP cannot fulfill their obligation of doing a thorough investigation into this matter. And let's not forget, this $400 million slush fund is all about Liberal MPs giving their buddies who own companies, Liberal associates, money. Right? So it's, oh, look, here's some money for you. Here's some money for you, you, and you, and you. And then they filter it back into their own companies in some cases. This is the epitome of corruption. And it's $400 million. So Andrew Scheer made a statement about that today outside the House of Commons. And you know what the media was asking him? Well, when are you going to, because the Parliament is paralyzed now until this matter is dealt with, until the government decides that they're going to hand over these unredacted documents to the RCMP, which so far it's been a month and they haven't. Or until the other 2 opposition parties, the NDP and the Bloc, decide, well, you know what, let's get on with the business of government, because the business of government has been stymied for the last month because of this. The first question from a left-wing corporate media reporter today was, so have you considered maybe just getting rid of this filibuster and allowing the government business to continue in the House of Commons? I mean, come on. In other words, you're the ones responsible for this. The order came down from the Speaker of the House, and it was voted on by the 3 main opposition parties in the House of Commons. And the Liberal government still refuses to give up these documents. Again, Northern Exposure Perspective has been doing a great job on that. But until they decide they're going to give up the documents or this filibuster order goes away, government is paralyzed. So it's pointless anyhow. And in the meantime, speaking of Justin Trudeau, now this is going to come to the end of this story. I want you guys to stay with me on this one. That cricket plant, the old Kellogg's plant in London, Ontario, it's now a cricket plant. Well, this cricket plant has cut 2/3 of their workforce because of a cash flow crunch. The sound that you make when you step on a bunch of dead crickets. An innovative cricket process, and this comes from the London Free Press, as you can see. I'm just going to stop this here. An innovative cricket processing plant in London has cut 100 jobs, 2/3 of its workforce, as it retools for future production. Aspire Foods announced the job cuts last Wednesday. About 50 workers remain at the plant in southeast London, opened in 2022 and received $8.5 million in federal government funding. Great job, Justin. great job. All right, let's turn our attention now to what's going on in the United States. Nancy Mace, do you know who she is? She's a congresswoman. And she made a motion today, and I believe this is going to become a regulation now in the House of Representatives, that men are not allowed in women's restrooms and vice versa. And apparently the lefties are losing their minds. I think they had one Democrat congresswoman or man or whatever, first official trans, lost his or her mind today. But here's Nancy Mace.
The left is calling me an extremist for being a feminist, fighting to protect the rights of women and girls. If being a feminist makes me an extremist or a bigot or a monster, I am totally here for it, because I'm going to fight like hell for every woman and every little girl across this country to protect you and keep you safe.
Yeah. So why don't we have... Did you see the dedication and conviction in here? Let's watch that again. Just let me...
The radical left is calling me an extremist for being a feminist, fighting to protect the rights of women and girls. If being a feminist makes me an extremist or a bigot or a monster, I am totally here for it, because I'm going to fight like hell for every woman and every little girl across this country to protect you and keep you safe.
Yeah, Nancy. Yeah. So I think probably the only one that's really stood up in the face of all this is Danielle Smith. And she's done it oh so meekly. Like, she's very, very careful when she talks about this particular issue. Not so much when it comes to, oil caps, natural gas caps the federal government wants to impose. There she goes a little bit more forcefully. But when it comes to this issue, she's... Hey, look, man, come on, speak up and say, they're nuts. We need more people to stand up and start telling the truth. Wait a minute, I forgot about this one here. She's not a politician, but she does have tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. Her name is Kristen. She's been on the show before, but you might know her from Instagram as Crunchy Not Smooth.
Ago, I approached some members in my psychology community and asked whether we were approaching the trans issue amongst children appropriately. Were we looking at the whole child? Were we maybe overlooking some other disorders? Were we seeing a trend that was becoming popular? The long-term study from the Netherlands had just been released. They had looked at children who had received therapy or surgery in their teens and now had looked at how they were coping in their late teens or 20s. The outlook was not good. I stated this with my colleagues and was told that I didn't know what I was talking about, that because I had only patriated back to Canada 2 years prior to that, I hadn't seen the whole rise of the transgender movement and how so many children needed to be treated by surgery or by medication. Fast forward 2 years and I approached these same colleagues again, stating that I think we should look more closely at the trans movement and maybe we had gone too far with just treating children right off the bat with surgery and medication. A very different response this time. They agreed. The reaction was very different. I was told, yes, the pendulum had swung too far and that we had made too many snap judgments treating children with medication and surgery instead of looking at the whole child, especially with this article that is being withheld in the US. Many children were being overlooked and they were actually autistic as opposed to trans. Think of all the children who have been maimed.
Autistic, you say? I wonder what caused that. Could it be one of the 75 things they get when they're born? I don't know. Just, throwing that out there. Now, a lot of the talk in the United States and in Canada, I think in the Western world, is these mass deportations that Donald Trump has been talking about for the entire campaign. And now is talking about, as he's the president-elect, he's already appointed or nominated Tom Homan to be the border czar. He used to be the border czar. Now he's going to be the border czar again. This guy spent 35 years in that position with ICE. Not in that position, but in ICE, dealing with border issues. He knows what he's talking about. He's difficult to understand sometimes because he talks so fast. But like when you listen to him, you go, yeah, this guy really knows what he's talking about. So you've got a lot of woke mayors down there in these sanctuary cities who are saying, we're not going to help you do that. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. The mayor of Boston has said, no, we're not going to help you with that. The mayor of Phoenix has said that. The mayor of Chicago has said that. In Los Angeles, they're actually preparing for that. What's going on in Los Angeles? New LA police chief's resistance of Trump deportation. They're invoking that sanctuary city title and taking it seriously now. So they're going to, in some cases, even protect these illegal aliens from being deported, captured, and deported by the Trump government. So here is Tom Homan talking about that.
Defending our residents every possible way. Well, she's not very smart, I'll give her that. Because what I just said is President Trump's going to prioritize public safety threats. What mayor or governor doesn't want public safety threats out of their communities? I mean, that's her number one responsibility, is to protect their communities. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So she helps us, she gets the hell out of the way, because we're going to do it. And look, there's a clear line here, and they can't cross a clear line. I would suggest she read Title 8, United States Code 1324 III, that says, you can't harbor or conceal an illegal alien from front of law enforcement officers. So I hope she don't cross that line. They can not cooperate, but there are certain laws in place that they can't cross, and I hope she doesn't cross it. But
so what you going to do? Try and invoke the National Guard? So when ICE or the FBI or whatever government agency comes to capture these illegals, are they going to have the National Guard standing in their way? Oh, my God. Breaking federal laws. Wow. Didn't they say Trump was going to be the one doing that? Yeah. Things are not. I think a lot of these leftist Marxist mayors, probably funded by George Soros, are just a lot of hot air at this stage of the game. They've lost a lot of their power. They've lost a lot of their bite. And I think they're going to back down, probably going to back down. But you never know. So the Kamala Harris campaign spent like $2.5 billion. And now they're in the hole. They had $2.5 billion. It's all gone now. And I think they owe something like $10 or $20 million. Donald Trump has actually stood up and said, you know what, I'll make up that difference for you. He said that. I'm not sure if he was joking about that or not. I find it kind of funny. But there's one story here that Kamala was paying these celebrities to appear at her rallies. And there was a rumor that she had paid Oprah Winfrey $1 million. Well, no, it wasn't $1 million. It was actually $2.5 million. From the New York Post, Kamala Harris's campaign paid Oprah, her production company anyhow, nearly $2.5 million for the Celeb Pack Town Hall, over double of the initial estimate. Just thought I'd throw that out there. And one last story here before we jump to the extension on shadowdavis.com. From the BBC, very proud of the farmers in the UK. Thousands of them protest against the new inheritance taxes that have been invoked by the Starmer government. And here's some video on that.
I play for the farmers. Everything we're doing it is for our kids. It's their future. And everything is just going against it. This inheritance tax it's ridiculous. It's the final straw.
I'm just so emotional. Why do we as farmers have to do this? We shouldn't,
This government needs to realise it's never been hungry since World War II. They're going to be hungry because if they keep putting tax on the farmers, it's going to have a massive impact.
From 2026, farmers will be liable for inheritance tax at 20% on farms worth more than £1 million. They claim it will force many to sell up to pay the bill. The government claims that only a small number of farms would be affected. Their figures are wrong, according to protesters here. Farmers say this is just the start. Next week, they are planning to hold their first ever strike action, and tens of thousands of them are going to be protesting in London on Tuesday. farmers will be withholding meat and crops from supermarkets in the days ahead, and say that if they're not listened to, there will be more action to come.
Now, I've heard numbers anywhere between 10,000 farmers showing up and 40,000. Europeans don't mess around. So hopefully, it's great to get all of those people out on a 1 or 2 day thing. That's fine. But what's your staying power all about? How much dedication have you got to this cause? Will you be able to stay out for as long as it takes before Herr Starmer needs to release the hounds on you like Herr Trudeau did here in Canada? Because news like that, when it gets out to the world, it makes you look bad. Really bad. That's it for the show tonight, you guys. Don't forget, Randy Hillier he's a great guy. We had such a great conversation on the phone yesterday. Randy Hillier joins the show. Going to talk about 15-minute cities and some other stuff on Thursday night. I will catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. For those of you on All Access, I'll see you on shadowdavis.com in 2 minutes for the extension. And you guys get to pick what we watch tonight, what we talk about, all right? But it's a choice of two things. I pointed it out earlier in the show, and I'll point it out again in 2 minutes. I love you. I appreciate you all, and I will see you soon.